Hello and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. This is part 2 of Festive Fun. So we've had some creative fun playing with the Tim Holtz Paper Village houses, and now that we've made our own altered Paper Village mansion, we're going to decorate it with some embellishments from Idea-ology. And we're going to be turning this manor into a gingerbread house as part of our gingerbread house village. Go ahead and pause to find out which ingredients I'm going to be using for these embellishments. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. So we're going to start decorating our gingerbread house. But before we start on all of the decorations, we're going to do a couple of alterations with some Idea-ology bubbles. I'm going to color these so that we have some different colors to work with when decorating the house. Now in here I have some of the bubbles and I have a few baubles as well. The baubles are the pearly ones and the bubbles are the clear ones. I'm hoping that the clear ones are going to turn out looking like some type of clear hard candy. So I'm going to divide these up into 3 categories. I'm going to be coloring some of them red, some blue, and some purple. So we're just going to drop a few of these into each of the containers and then grab some alcohol inks. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to grab some alcohol ink. For alcohol ink, I'm going to be using crimson for the red, boysenberry for the purple, and glacier for the blue. So I'm just going to take a couple of drops of crimson, put it right in here. Then I'm going to take a extra cup. I'm just going to put that over the top and I'm going to give these a swirl. And there we go. We've got some lovely colored bubbles and baubles. I'm just going to set this aside to dry and we'll move on to our next color. All right, let's add some boysenberry. So again, a couple of drops and shake it up. For these, I like to do kind of a swirly motion, not so much of an up and down motion. Ooh. Very pretty color, I'm liking. All right, and last but not least, let's add some glacier. So again, we'll add just a couple of drops and shake it up. There we go. We've got some lovely blue embellishments. Okay, so let's set these aside while they dry for the moment. And we're going to bring back in our foundation for our gingerbread house. So for this, we're going to be adding some frosting to it. And to add the frosting, I'm going to be using some texture paste. Now this is the texture paste matte. And to apply the texture paste, I'm going to be using this little silicone frosting applicator. Now this would normally be found in a cake frosting kit, but I have found that it works really well with the texture paste. It's made out of silicone, so it's super easy to use, very flexible, and very easy to clean. And to load this, we simply need one of the palette knives. And we'll just take out a little bit of a scoop and start feeding it in. I'm just taking a medium-ish size scoop. I'm taking it in and I'm then scraping it off on the inside of the tube. And I'll just keep repeating this until I have enough texture paste to work with. A little messy, but not too bad. It's pretty easy to clean up. And I found this to be a lot easier than piping bags. The texture paste is a slightly heavier weight than frosting. Frosting is a little bit more viscous, but the texture paste has some heft to it. So when using pastry bags, they tend to rip out. At least that's what I found. So I like to use the silicone because it's a lot more durable and allows me to easily manipulate the frosting once I'm trying to apply it. Okay, so this is fairly full, but it's not full enough. You can see that this is the dark area where I have texture paste, and the more translucent area doesn't have any. I'm just going to take this part, which is the plunger, and gently smush the texture paste down. And then I will continue to load more texture paste into the barrel of this frosting tube. So again, we'll just take some more texture paste, stick it in, scrape it off. Not too hard. And when it gets fullish, then I can take the push valve of the frosting tube and smush down the texture paste, and then I can add some more. Usually I like to fill this about 2/3 full, and that's typically enough paste to get me good coverage on one of these houses. And the nice thing is, even if you don't use it all, you can save it and reuse it later because it's very easy to squish back out of the tube. Okay. All right, that seems to be pretty good. Just going to smush that around a bit, make sure everything is in place. Okay. Looks good. So I'm just going to set this aside for the moment. I might need to refill since this is a larger house than I have previously worked with before, but we'll see. Okay, setting this aside, putting the cap back on. I'll put some press and seal onto that later. Now let's zoom in for a moment. Before we start icing the gingerbread house, there's a couple of little technique things that we should talk about. There are different types of tips that can come with the frosting applicator. I am using a star tip. I like the star tip because it gives me a bit of texture, and I think the texture looks more realistic like frosting. Now, when applying frosting, whether it's cake frosting or frosting a distressed gingerbread house, there are a couple of ways that we can apply it. Obviously, we can do a straight line of frosting. Pretty simple. But there's also something really cool called a snail trail. Now, a snail trail is something that it's going to look kind of like icing ruffles. So we're going to place the frosting tip down. I'm holding onto the barrel and I'm slowly squeezing this out. But as I'm squeezing, I'm rocking this back and forth to get a little ruffle going. And you see we're getting these fantastic little bumps. That's the snail trail. So I'm going to be using a combination of doing a straight drag line and trying to replicate the snail trail. All right. Now, the nice thing is, even though I just used this little bit for a demonstration, I just scoop that off the mat and I can tuck it right back into the silicone tube. Nice and easy and little to no waste. All right, let's bring the camera back out and we'll take a look at the gingerbread house and how we're going to be applying the frosting. Okay, to start, I'm going to be working on the top of the roof. And this one, I'm going to try to do the snail trail. So I'm holding the tip down, getting it stuck onto the roof, and then gently wibbling and wobbling back and forth. Perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to turn the building, and I'm going to do a straight line down the side of the eaves. I think I'm going to put this down at an angle. Give this a little support. There we go. I'm just going to do a straight line like that. Good. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Perfect. All right, while still working on the front side of the house, I'm also going to take care of this little eaves section in the front. Just a little bit up and down. There we go. And I wanted to run some along the edges right here. That one I'm going to try to do more like a snail trail. Good. I'll do the same over here. And I think I'm going to run that all across the front of the house. Pretty good. Oh, I'm really liking this. Good. And I'm also going to run a line up along this section right here. We've got a bit of a crack going, but that's what the icing's for. We can cover it up and make it look pretty. Okay, run that line right down. Perfect. Okay, and we'll do the same over here. Good. And I also want to run a line where this part of the roof attaches to the upper story. Okay, just twist around a bit. Let's try that again. There we go. There. Okay, I'm liking that. And I also want to put a bit of frosting on the towers. So I'll start over here, run a line up. Good. And we'll run another line right here. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. This is definitely my favorite part of making these little gingerbread houses. The frosting is always the most fun. Oh, I think I'm also going to do the bottom part of that roof as well. Yep, I'm going to run something along right here. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. Good. Okay. And you know what? I want to connect the rest of the tower. That doesn't look finished. There we go, all the way up. And I'll do the same thing on this side. Okay. And one more side. There we go. Okay. So we've got this side completed. So let's go ahead and decorate it, and then once it is dry, I will decorate the other side. So to do that, I'm going to be pulling in these different baubles that we've colored. And we will add them to the building. So along the bottom, I want to do some of the big ones. Stick that in, and I think I might do some sort of pattern. Oh yeah, just like that. I'm liking that. Take another one, put it in this corner. Yep. Yeah, this is working out pretty well. I'm happy with that. Okay. Okay, I'm just gonna prop that back up and move this back into frame. Good. And I need a purple one. Good. Now I'm just going to add little embellishments here and there. I think I'm going to be using a mix of the pearly ones and the clear ones. That looks good. That's looking good. And I'll do the same on the other side with some other colors. All right, so that is looking good. Now, the other thing I wanted to add are a couple of the candies. We've also got these, and I want to add 2 of those to the towers. I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to put one over here. That looks pretty cool. All right, so we're going to let this dry and then I will continue to decorate. Okay, before we continue our decorating on the other side, I wanted to quickly add in some window frames. We're just going to quickly slip these in here and I will gently push them into place using the die pick tool. There we go. There we go. That looks all right, and I will quickly do the same thing to the other side. All right, we'll just try to sneak that window up under here and gently adhese it. The good news for us is that I remembered to put double-sided sticky tape on the back of these window frames. That makes attaching these a lot easier. Okay, looks good. So we're going to put this next part on fast forward while I add decoration to the rest of this gingerbread mansion. While we wait for the gingerbread mansion to dry, we're going to be decorating one more gingerbread village. We're going to be decorating this little gingerbread village church. So we're going to put this part on fast forward and we're going to ice it and decorate it. Now that our gingerbread house is fully decorated, let's add some finishing touches. So I'm going to be taking a white gel pen and adding just a little bit of highlight around each of the windows. This is going to give our gingerbread house more of a frosty look. So I'm just going to take the pen and we're going to just scribble that around the edges. Little details always make projects so much fun. So I'm just going to spread that on down the edge, and I'll try to get these little cross pieces. Okay, I'm liking that, and then I'll do the same to these little windows down here. Okay, I'll just bring this a little bit closer to the camera. Quickly add the gel pen here and here, and a little bit down here. You could do this with some of the white distress paint, but because these spaces are so small that I'm trying to add a little bit of extra white to, I'm finding that the gel pen has been the best solution so far. Okay, and let's do the same thing on this side. Okay, that looks pretty good. Good. Now we have a little bit of white detailing around these windows. So I'm just going to set this one aside for the moment, and we're going to finish off by adding a little bit of the white gel pen around the window frames of this church-like building. So just adding in the white for that frosted look. And that will bring us to the conclusion of this portion of the video. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Last window. So I'll color the cross pieces first, and then I'll quickly go around the edges of the circle. All right. I'm pretty happy with that. So here are our two altered Paper Village gingerbread houses. Okay. This wraps it up for part 2. Hope to see you back in section 3, where we're going to get into some extreme crafting. So, until then, happy crafting.